Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host, Jason Melendez.
Live now every week on Fridays.
Talking Junk.
A multitude of professionals in different aspects, different walks of life.
You have to come on and talk junk like a normal person.
Welcome to Friday nights. Welcome to Talking Junk. I'm your host, here tonight by myself because Tylen's feeling a little under the weather. China's in the background as always. China, say hi to the people.
Hello, everybody.
Tonight we got a doozy of an episode for you. He is pretty much an animal expert in his own right and a voice actor. So we're going to have a little bit of fun. Say hello to my guest tonight, Nick Denton. How you doing, Nick?
Hello. Evening. Thanks for having me on, man.
My pleasure. I'm a little disappointed we couldn't link up a little earlier, but, you know, things happen.
Yeah. But that's life. What can you do?
That's life. That's all people say. So, Nick, before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Tell the junkers out there a little bit about yourself.
Well, Ian, my name is Nick, and I was born in New Hampshire but raised in Florida on an exotic animal farm. My parents are specialists when it comes to specifically birds, but a lot of people in my family always had careers, but their hobbies were always animals. And when they got older and retired from their main jobs, animals turned into their life. So I grew up, my earliest memories were mostly of animals and not of people per se. You know, and my childhood was a little bit different than most. And then I went to college out at Utah State University. I studied animal science and agricultural business. And then after college, I headed off to the San Antonio Zoo. And then from there, I went out to Arizona, worked at the Wildlife World Zoo. And then I kind of went into the private sector to kind of hone my skills a little bit more on the sense of hand feeding and husbandry with different species of birds. And then back into the zoo world in Memphis. And I decided to leave the zoo world because there's a lot in the zoo, politically speaking, that happens that isn't really known and talked about much. But after that, I decided to get into nuisance wildlife removal. So I went from working with a lot more exotic animals over to working with native animals. Specifically, out here in Arizona, there's a lot of animals here that are very special in particular here as compared to most of the other parts of the country.
So when you say your parents owned an exotic animal farm, what kind of animals did they house there?
So in particular, my father specialized in rare and exotic pheasants, and my mother specialized in cetaceans, which are more commonly known as hookbills or parrots. So, you know, the ones that in Pirates of the Caribbean, the blue and gold macaw, like those guys. That's what she specialized in.
I want your mama's sweet ass.
Oh boy. No, the thing with my mother is that we've always joked that my mother could probably rock. You know, she's one of the best in the entire country when it comes to hatching and hand rearing baby birds. My father is just brilliant with genetics, and his specialty is actually pheasants, but not the kind of pheasants that you would see, you know, Elmer Fudd hunting on a cartoon. It's kind of more the pheasants that are really not known by a lot of people. You know, you have Argus pheasants, peacock pheasants, you have fireback pheasants. There's a lot of them that I'm going to say where a lot of people go, huh? And that's because they're pheasants, they're very good at hiding, because if they don't hide well, they get eaten. So that's why most people don't really hear much about them. And zoos tend to not want to take them in because who wants an animal that likes to hide? You know?
Well, most animals in the zoo seem like they're hiding anyway.
Well, it's how would you like it if this random hairless ape walked along and stared at you all day?
Yeah, I wouldn't like it. I don't like it now when these hairless weirdos stare at me.
Oh, yeah. Unless it's your kid, then for some reason it's amusing. You know, it's like your kid, for some reason, when your child's like just randomly staring at you from doing something, you're just like, what?
Unless I'm sleeping. If my kids are staring at me while I'm sleeping, there's an issue.
Yeah, big time.
So it's safe to say that the environment you grew up in kind of steered you to the life that you led for quite a while.
Oh, big time. Well, that, and here's the thing. When you spend that much of your life around animals and you spend so much of your life seeing so many things from, honestly, on a cyclical perspective, of just you see how everything goes. Like, I was a kid when I was dealing with death. I knew what sexual reproduction was when I was a kid because it was happening all the time around me. And eventually you're going to figure out where those babies are coming from, things like that. So
The birds and the
honestly,
bees, but for you
yeah,
it's
and
just the
honest,
birds.
yeah, and honestly, at a young age too, I had probably a lot of personal questions most kids wouldn't have. But this whole, it's a whole different topic. Religion was another thing that you really question a lot when you're raised around nature and animals your whole life, because it's never something that you hear because we're so used to people talking about it. But animals don't talk; they communicate. There's a huge difference. But when you figure that out and you see how they just go through life because they're there, they're not worried about. That's the one. It might be an advantage in what really makes us people, which is having that question of what happens. But because animals don't really have that, I guess, question as far as we know, they don't worry about that. They're there. And sometimes especially these days, we kind of have lost that ability to be there. And animals have always been able to kind of at least teach me that and bring me there. Because when you work with them, you can't be on your phone. You can't, the fun thing about being a zookeeper is when you have moments of time where you're not working, that's when Snapchat becomes like your bread and butter. Because Snapchat, I've always joked, was made for zookeepers because we get to see and work with these animals in ways that it's hard for people to kind of get their head around.
Yeah.
Like, I got to hand rear an African pygmy falcon, which is a bird of prey that is the size of a cardinal. Like, he's as big as my phone case. He's a bird of prey related to like a hawk and those big guys, same family, who's the size of my phone, who I could go
Hence
into the
pygmy
aviary.
name.
Yeah, but I could go into an aviary and I could just be like, his little like this, and he would literally just fly right to my hand.
Pretty cool.
And people will go, wow, that must, that's so cool you can do that. Was it easy and stuff like that? And it's like, well, you had to pull them, you had to incubate them, you had to hand rear them all the way through. You also had to make sure they were set up. You had to make sure they were safe where they were set up. You had to make sure they were comfortable. There's so much
process.
more to it. So, and the other thing as well is when you see a keeper on exhibit, that's maybe 1/12 what we're doing. And there's a lot of pride in zookeeping because of what we do. But amazingly, and this is always very shocking to hear, but a lot of zookeepers make less than fast food workers.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
That's very shocking. Because you would think you were I would think that zookeepers would be kept up in the upper middle class section.
You would think. We have said this for so long, but there's a big problem, and not a problem, more like it's a personality trait that makes it difficult to really get information about zookeeping and what we do and what we deal with out there. So many of them are introverted. That's why they have the career they do. They don't like people. I'm not a huge fan of people, but as like a whole in what we do to each other. Individually, and when you break it down, I fully believe when it comes to a person, if they're good or not, really comes down to the individual himself. But, of course, not everybody thinks like that. But that's kind of how animals are.
You rarely
you think
see
about
malice in the animal kingdom, that's why.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when it comes to zookeeping, we have to deal with so much that most people don't ever think about, like death. There's so much death we deal with, and these are animals that we work with, that we treat like they're our own pets. Like that horrible feeling when your dog dies, like that really gut pit, like, just in the bottom
and
of your
stomach. And
stomach.
for you guys, it must be 100 times worse.
Well, it's not 100 times worse, but we have to deal with that horrible feeling on a much higher basis, especially if you work with birds. There's some birds you just don't get attached to because they just die so easily. And it's why they lay multitudes of eggs. There's always a high percentage, there's a high mortality rate. But these zookeepers, they work we're always understaffed. You're always working way more hours than 40. There's the commute, and there's also that part of getting the job as a zookeeper. It's one of the most competitive fields you can imagine. If you want to work at a zoo, because for starters, how many zoos are there? Not many when you think about it. There's 50 states, and I believe, let's just say, the average, I want to say, is about 2 major zoos per country. Wow. And the competition for it is unbelievable. Now, this is what I heard. This was a story I heard. But when I worked at the Memphis Zoo, they opened up a section where they had the elephants at, and the big animals, the rhinos and the great apes. And it's a very, very, very good and impressive zoo. I mean, they have pandas. There's only 3 zoos in the country that have pandas, and if you're one of them, I'd say you're doing something right. But what's crazy to me is that I was there.
Now I'm trying to think if the Bronx Zoo has pandas.
No, there's the Washington, D.C., the National Zoo, Zoo Atlanta, and the Memphis Zoo. So there's only
not even the San Diego Zoo.
Nope, their pandas went back. Their contract is up with the pandas.
Wow.
What was I getting? Oh, so there was a position that opened up in this section, and it was simply to help get the load off of the curator. The curator's the head of. There were 2 main curators, and then there was a curator over all the animals. Then there were 2 guys who worked in the East and the West zone. So the curator of the East zone was having a tough time, so she opened up a position to help her out. And I believe I apologize if anybody in Memphis watches this and this is incorrect, but I believe in the 48 hours when she opened up that position, a high-end paying position, not like a keeper job. This is like a curator, supervisor, like you're overseeing a lot. 150 applications in 2 days for that specific job filled up. Now imagine what it must be like for a zookeeping job, because you have to pepper spray a map with applications. I didn't think I would ever live in San Antonio, Texas, or Memphis, Tennessee, or Litchfield Park, Arizona. I had no idea I would ever live there, but those were the opportunities that I got as a job. The amount of times you are turned down, the amount of times you don't even ever hear from anybody, it is mind-boggling sometimes. And there are other people who are just their Facebook groups with this, and they're just like, how do I get a job? I just simply can't. It honestly starts falling into what and who you know. But when you're in that interview, you really got to show them what you know and what you can bring to the table that'll make you different and help this department out.
So you would think with the struggles you went through as a zookeeper, you would look for something afterwards a little easier, a field a little more, it's accessible for you to slide in.
It's not the here's the easier part. The work and everything, that's what we love as keepers. It's grunt work, it's serious work. You're covered in shit and everything else you can imagine.
By easy, I didn't really mean the workload. I meant more of the field itself.
Yeah. Okay, I see where you're coming from. It's the easiest way to, when it comes to being the job of a zookeeper, the easy part is actually the work. It's pretty straightforward. It's like feed this, make sure they're okay. It's when you get down to the specifics and the little tiny things, that's what really makes a keeper, and that's what really is things that set you apart that zoos look for. But when it came to the career change, it was simply like, I wanted to work with animals. I wanted to help the environment, and I wanted to also educate people and teach people. But I also wanted to not wonder if I'd be able to have food in my fridge at the end of the month. So
can I have a family after this?
Exactly. You can't. The most common thing that happens with zookeepers is they have a sugar daddy or a sugar mama, something like that. When I'm dead serious. There are keepers who are keepers, and then their husbands or their wives are doctors or lawyers or something like that. That's how you're able to maintain a career in it, or you're able to get into a position of higher status like a curator. But what's the trade-off? When you become a curator, you're not working with animals. You represent the department that the animals are on, but you're mostly sitting at a desk and doing paperwork instead of what you originally signed up for, which was working with those animals. Because that feeling that you get, like when I go out and people ask me, what do you do for a career? And just nonchalantly, because it is what I do, it's like your job. What do you do? So you just reflexively say it. And I'm like, I'm a zookeeper. There was 2 responses. Most popularly was, really? That's so awesome. Really? The second one, however, not so much. And it does happen. And in some areas, a lot more than others. But, oh, so you like putting animals in cages? You run into those people.
The PETAs of the world.
Yeah, the PETAs of the world. Ugh, God, that place is just a... PETA has the moral compass of an opportunistic infection. Like, they are just low. And every time you think they get lower than they possibly could, guess what? They brought a shovel. And they just keep
The only
going.
PETA I like is the one filled with a dead animal.
Absolutely.
Well, how did you get into voice acting, though?
Well, this was just something I just started up, but voices I always did with the animals I worked with. It would either be a cartoon characters that I was able to pick up.
That must be a tough crowd.
Well, no, because when I realized it as a young kid that, well, they respond to my voice on the sense of I would speak to them in this specific voice. They knew it was me. So whenever they would hear me, their stress would go away because they're like, oh, it's this guy because we recognize it through this voice. Certain, I don't know, just different animals. I would do certain things like if we had we had capybaras at one point because my parents have no self-control. This one, however, was my father. My mother, when she doesn't have self-control, tends to stay in her area, whereas my father will go, how about some capybaras? You guys want Flemish giants? And I'm like, why would we want a 38-pound rabbit? Okay, they're cute. But, so that's, but when it comes to, sorry, I'm kind of losing track here, going off the rails a little. Where was I?
No, it's completely fine. That's what we do here.
No, I was trying to say something before.
Something about the voices that you.
That's right. Use. Thank you.
Don't worry. That's what I'm here for.
Well, thank you. So certain ones where, like baby parrots, whenever I go in there, I'm like, uh-oh, I think somebody's hungry. From SpongeBob, or whenever I would brush the cats and they were all done, and they would be like,
really?
Exactly. But when you realize you do this to you just find the voice. Like my penguins out in Memphis, I found the voice. It just happened one day, but it was the Doofenshmirtz or Schmorsh, whatever he was from Phineas. Doofenshmirtz, thank you. But he kept popping up on these memes that I would see. And one morning, I don't know what was going on, but I was just like, good morning, my penguins. Look at all of you crawling out of your pants. No, what are you, a platypus penguin? And ever since I started doing that voice, they would just, oh, hey. I would open the door first before I would do that, and they'd be like, whoa, because the door would open. They wouldn't really hear me coming. So after I figured this out, and I would go to the door to open it, I'd be like, my little penguins, I'm coming in the door to see you. And they would just all be chill. They'd be like, oh, morning, what's up, Dad? Or however they looked at me, I don't know. When kittens or something would be, I'd be like Jar Jar from Star Wars when he's like, no, get back in there, no. And anything baby for some reason.
Jar Jar Binks.
Exactly. The three versions of that voice that flow very well. You just change it a little, which is
Stitch, Gollum. And Jar Jar.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, punch my I got it. Hey, you stupid fat hobbit.
There you go. Yeah,
I got you. I'm here with you.
Absolutely. No, but then I just I realized I could do this with my animals. I'm like, well, let me just see what voices I can do. And I just I paid more attention to what I was listening to and try to see if I could mimic it. And the same thing went for accents. I had this thing I used to do where I say, like, it's fun when you're hanging out because America's kind of fun. You start down in the South, right? And depends upon where you are. You could be in Georgia,
Well,
eating some new crickets. And then you go up to like that Nashville or Tennessee area. It got a lot. Well, y'all, let me tell you. And then you put twang on it, and you're in Texas all of a sudden. But then you go more
You've
north.
always been a Southern boy, though, so you kind of picked up on some of these accents pretty early.
Oh, of course. Of course.
I'm a city boy. I had to watch movies for these things.
Yeah, area though, it kind of depends. I know there's certain parts in New York they'll talk like this, and then you'll go to like Queens. Hey, are those cargo shorts? What are you doing? And then, oh God, and then
I don't know now, there, guy. We all don't sound like that up there.
Yeah, I didn't know we went so far south for prospecting.
I like mining.
What's funny is though, when you the most common New York accent that I fall into is one, just I realize
here.
Exactly. So I watch too many gangster movies. You know what I'm talking about? Listen to me right here. Okay, you're talking to me. You're not talking to anybody. You're talking to me right here. All right. So here's the thing: you put a little bit of a twang on it, and then you're in Boston. That's the thing, guy. It's not that fucking different. It's like when you're over. Because England, the normal contacts like this, some pop, like Michael Caine, his accent's a lot more, it's I forget what Cockney that's what, it's like that guy who was the voice of Shere Khan, Mowgli, Idris Elba, that was his name. And then my old soccer coach, he was a little more, Manchester United, you know what I'm talking about? That's right and fine. And then you put a little bit of on this, and then you're in the outback. That's another thing. See, I grew up watching Steve Irwin, and when he went around, mate, there's a beautiful animal right over there. So that's just that was amazing. So many characters in my thank you. There were so many characters in my Pepe Le Pew. He was the skunk. He kissed the baby skunk. But then my pediatrician.
I'll say now, boy.
I'm paying those barnyard flowers. What's going on here?
I hate that rabbit.
If those the Family Guy though with whatever they do, I'm trying to remember with the Yosemite Sam with his pants is like, whoa, these are the tightest penis. That was that show though, Family Guy really took me off because SpongeBob was the start of me realizing I could do voices because, there was Patrick Star, he was easy, and then Plankton when it came to bikini, and then Gary's sound effects, he just and there was always that one random guy, thanks for the lies, Mr. Fake, like that one random jerk who would just pop up and you stink. But but then I found Family Guy because Peter Griffin was just like I said. Whenever I was in Boston or that area, you would always hear, like Natick and all that. But then Stewie Griffin would come along and he'd be like, "Oh, Brian, how you looking at the North? You looking on? You been looking on it for some time, yeah." And then I'll tell you what.
Do you have a TikTok, Nick?
No, I don't.
You need to get a TikTok.
Dude, I've heard TikTok's like this venom trap of poison. And when you're sinking into it, you're finding these treasures along the way as it's eating you. You're like,
I heard the same thing, but it didn't stop me from getting on there. See, but I'm not as good as you on those voices, or I'd have way more content on there. You see, the way I would mimic voices growing up, and I would feel like I sound like them, but I really didn't get any validation to say you sound like this person, except for like Stitch and Gollum, which is pretty easy, until I had my kids. And then they watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for like 5 years straight. So when you wake up to, hey, you want to come inside my clubhouse? Well,
dude,
all right.
I
almost forgot.
That is stupid
to get
good.
Into the clubhouse, you need to say the magic words. Miska, Muska, Mickey Mouse, Say it with me. I just want to fucking hang myself.
Yeah, but I imagine my parents were kind of the same way dealing because they couldn't turn off the TV and still be me because I'd still be able to do this. So I'd seriously, with my mother, I'd just be like, I walked into the kitchen and sat down at the table. I looked with a grimace at the questionable meal that my mother had placed in front of me, and she would be like, I am going to smack you. Like,
it's better than getting a slipper thrown at you in the living room for you sitting there playing Nintendo going, yippee! Wah-ha! Wah-ho! Oh, no. Now my kids love it. Mario Kart! Hey!
How many kids do you have?
I got 3.
3. Awesome. All boys, girls.
I got 3 girls. Yeah, my son passed on, but he's the mascot you see on the Talking Junk logos and everything.
Yeah, my condolences, man.
Thank you.
But yeah, I have one currently. Just his 6-year-old boy. It's
the Avengers fan. Yeah.
Just tape the windows. Here's a tornado coming. But no, the voice is that also. It's fun to work with. When he gets older, it'll be fun to show him those. Weirdly enough, though, when another show, The Simpsons, a lot of the side characters and Marge Simpson too. And then, of course, Patty and Selma are more like this. And then Homer, he gets tough sometimes. But excellent, yes. For once the rich white man is in control. Those little side ones I always found a lot of fun. The newer ones, like, what part of blackout don't you understand? You drink. Yeah, cool drinking. Sexy drinking. Not this psycho trailer park shit. But one of my early on favorites, there's a voice person everybody knows, and then there was a particular cartoon that influenced me for a love of narration. But being an animal person, Steve Irwin would narrate, but he was also there, so you got to see him a lot. The main guy whose voice you hear more than you would see him was one particular British man, the great impala of the rainforest.
From National Geographic.
Yeah, or David Attenborough, BBC.
But for me, it was the movie guy. In a world.
Bingo. Yeah. Don LaFontaine.
We're here talking junk. I'm not sure exactly what his name was.
But no, that was I believe he kind of looked like a shorter Dr. Phil in a sense. So the other guy was, so it's funny you said Mickey Mouse because another influence of mine was Goofy, but it was remember those old Goofy cartoons where they would have that narrator. Yes, that one narrator always cracked me up. Because that's why one of my favorite SpongeBob episodes was that whole episode where the guy's just like, when we look at this graph, that reminded me of those old episodes where it was just like, the voice would sometimes be different. Like if it was a safari one, the guy would just be like, suddenly a spork post-quickening, the tiger was nearby. And then
you kind of get that it's the same person.
But then the next episode, he would be, the sport of golf was passed.
The wonderful world of sports. Yeah, well, I love that episode.
Yeah. And then, of course, it would be like, you have to play the ball where it lands. And then, of course, when there would be times where he was learning to fish, it's like, a strike, quick, grab the net, quick, slap it. And like, he's starting to lose his mind, and Goofy's going with it. And we used to just, snort milk out of our noses as kids watching that stuff. Looney Tunes, of course, from everybody from, Fearless Fleet or
Roll Reggie, Rover, get a roll, read.
Scooby-Doo. Oh, absolutely. Casey Kasem, though, was
Casey Kasem.
Casey Kasem.
Just to hear him say jism.
Yeah, right.
You're bringing me back down memory lane, Nick.
Yeah, well, there was another guy, too. I remember this. This is thanks to Frank Caliendo I actually learned this one. But there was a guy, he was from Caddyshack. He used to be the original narrator for the Super Friends. Because,
wow.
Yeah.
You're talking about the guy that in the beginning of the episode is talking about the Hall of Justice, and then he'll go
except
back and he'll say the Legion of Doom.
Yeah, except it'd be more like a meanwhile back at the Hall of Justice. You know, it'd be a little more like conky, but that was like for a couple episodes. But then, of course, meanwhile back at the Hall of Justice. You know, that then it became that more cartoony pop to
Everything
it.
was almost a question with him.
But do you know? So there's a fun clip. I'm curious if you know this, and it might have come up on TikTok, but it's a video of Hank Azaria talking about this thing that Mel Blanc did in one of the episodes of Looney Tunes. It was from the famous the rabbit season, duck season one, and it's when Daffy is dressed up as Bugs doing an impression of Bugs, and Bugs shows up dressed as Daffy doing an impression of Daffy. And what's so amazing about that scene and what Hank Azaria says is like he actually makes it sound like Daffy is doing an impression of Bugs Bunny. He is taking a character he has created and he's
making that character do
another character through that character.
He's god.
Like transcending, and Hank Azaria was talking like all of us in the Simpsons studio were trying to do it and we couldn't, because as much as you try to make Mo sound like Apu or Apu sound like Mo, or like Chief Wiggum, Chief Wiggum sounds like a. And then Apu sounds like. If you try to mix the two, it will either be Apu it'll be either like Apu, mixed.
You'll get a different voice.
It'll just sound like a mix of the two. It won't sound like that character just doing an impression of that other character, And it's just
Mel Blanc was like a god amongst gods.
He was. My favorite thing he ever said, which is kind of contradictory to, all the impressions I've been doing, but he said, "I'm not a mimic. I am a voice actor." Which I very much, because I have my own voices that I've done.
Well, you see, it's different for him because he's one of the originators. Right? So it's more mimicking for us because we're copying his styles as opposed to him creating them. Which is probably why it was easier for him to do the voices than it was for the Simpsons guys to do the voices.
I mean, and he was also just he did mimic one time because it was a tribute to his friend. So Elmer Fudd was actually not voiced by Mel Blanc. He was voiced by a dear friend of his who, unfortunately, I do not know his name off the top of my head, but he passed away while Looney Tunes were still going on, and I think it was like every year there was some kind of charity event where the guy who would voice Elmer Fudd would play Elmer Fudd in a commercial to raise money for the area. I believe this is what it was. So Mel Blanc, as tribute to him, did a commercial in Elmer Fudd for them, and of course it was perfect. But it was really kind of a testament to, he over 1,000 voices, man. He was a man of 1,000 voices. He really did make that many voices.
He was the Chris Jericho of voice acting.
Exactly. Oh, no. Oh, don't talk wrestling to me. That's another part of my heart you're going to get after.
Oh, so then you're watching Double or Nothing on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dude, Roman Reigns took back to WWE. His heel turn has made me want to watch him specifically. And Cesaro's getting a chance and something.
That's a facade. They're not giving Cesaro no chance.
Well, no.
It's going to end with Seth and Roman.
Well, here's my thing on that, too, is that they're still willing to put Cesaro into a spotlight that high. The fact that we're seeing
because they're scared that his contract is going to waste and he's going to go with one of his great friends, Cody Rhodes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Believe me, I understand why they did it, but it's still nice to see. It's like it really just for that simple. I've learned with WWE, enjoy the moments. Don't enjoy the product as a whole.
NXT is way better than WWE.
Yeah. Oh, for fucking leaps and bounds, man. But no, for WWE, it's like enjoy the moments. They still have the ability to create amazing moments, like with Kofi Kingston. But
oh yeah, that was a great moment.
But Jesus, when was the last time they had a moment like that? There's so few
Daniel Bryan.
That's right, yeah.
Which brings me to
that was what, 5 WrestleManias before that?
Yeah.
6?
But speaking of the man, I can almost guarantee you that Bryan Danielson will be debuting at AEW Double or Nothing this week.
You think so, huh? Dude, I haven't put that to bed.
He doesn't have a 90-day clause on his contract. He can legally work anywhere.
Yep. I honestly, with him, I would honestly think he would try to go to New Japan. before
I
he
would think
do.
so too, but why are you going to go to New Japan if WWE is seemingly trying to get an exclusive deal with New Japan as we speak?
That might be why.
Mm.
It might be if Brian can draw more eyes to New Japan, and then people start tuning in more, and then New Japan could be like, guess what? We're signed with WWE now, and then
I would
the
much
way
rather
the
see
process-
Kenny Omega versus Bryan Danielson.
Oh God, dude, are you kidding me? Of course I would, but I'm just trying to think about it on the business standpoint of who can throw the most money at him, because this is a man.
I just hope, honestly, TNA doesn't grab Samoa Joe, because that is a dream match of mine, and I need to see Samoa Joe fight Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega, yeah.
I need to see it.
Yeah, man, dude, yeah, that would be. Oh, man, I'm kind of getting chills thinking about that. You know,
That would be match of the year,
like
hands
when
down.
when the Shield went up against the Wyatts, like that was a build up where I was like that. I'm like, oh, this is good. Or when Dean Ambrose just showed up at AEW.
Oh yeah,
like almost
or
like
Balor versus Joe. Balor versus Joe.
Dude, recently with Keith Lee and Adam Cole, like
great match.
Keith Lee is my favorite, man. I love that man. So because I remember watching.
He's limitless.
Dude, I remember watching him and Matt Riddle on like YouTube clips battling it out. And
me and my daughter got to see Matt Riddle in person on the Indies before he made the jump. Him and Darby Allin. We've seen Darby Allin on multiple occasions.
That's freaking dope. That's awesome.
Her first show.
Oh,
look, I have it right here too. Let's see. Oh, now I gotta pick it up because it's signed. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. I met Cody Rhodes in an airport one time in Dallas, hung over at all get up, because I was coming back from I was flying back from Utah because my little guy from my fraternity got married, so I had to fly out and see him, and I'm just in the Dallas airport, and I'm like standing behind this guy, and he kind of turns back, and he's sitting there, he's standing there, he's holding his wife's hand, and in my head I keep looking at him like, what? And so he was just such a cool dude. I just told him, like, you look a little different when you're not Stardust. And he was just like, well, true. Hey. And then, but he already had his coffee. Yeah, okay. Like, he's grabbing his coffee stuff, and I'm just like, are you Cody Rhodes? He's like, yes, I am. I was like, cool. You look a lot different when you're not Stardust. And he's just like, yeah, no kidding, right? He's like, no kidding, right? And then he just goes, he's like, all right, man, I got to go, but have a nice flight. And I was like, yeah, you too. Have a good one. I wanted in that moment, you look back and like, I wish I could have said this, this, and this. But it just in the moment, I was like, well, okay. Because I felt bad. You kind of
kick yourself, right?
Yeah. Well, because I felt bad. Like I wanted to, I wanted to, I'm not going to be awesome. I think that Stardust character is really friggin' stupid. But I know you're trying to, I understood he was trying to make art out of a pile of crap. And he did the best that pretty much anybody could have done with that character.
He did. He did a wonderful job. Honestly, before I get into my let me get 2 seconds, all right? Go ahead, we lucked out. Me and my daughter. We got to go to Cody 3.
No way.
And we got to meet them. But
dude,
going back to the Stardust,
awesome.
It was great. It was the first people we met. Together.
Kurt Angle versus Rock versus Taker, the triple threat match. It's one of my favorite matches ever.
Give me any match with Angle and Chris Benoit, and I'll drool all day.
And Eddie Guerrero.
Oh, you don't even have to say anything about that man.
Man,
that man is amazing.
That's the man who CM Punk says is the greatest wrestler of all time.
And he may be. What?
I honestly believe this, man. Like what he accomplished and what he did. The fact that at that time he had so much respect from everybody, where that's from literally everybody. The only other person who really had that level of respect was probably Taker.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Eddie was just loved by everybody. You saw it. When he passed away, the entire wrestling world was just, it was like our hearts were ripped out.
We're still trying to recover.
We are. We really are. It's just
going back to that Stardust thing real quick. The whole premise for it was he was supposed to be Stardust on I think he was on SmackDown, was it?
I believe so. Yeah.
So he was supposed to be Stardust on SmackDown, but Cody Rhodes on Raw.
Oh, really? I
And
didn't know that.
Triple H poo-pooed it. So he decided to just go his separate ways.
Yeah. Apparently, it was Triple H's call to break up Sanity.
I heard different.
Really?
Yeah, I heard that they were being used poorly on the main roster, so he decided to send Alexander Wolf to the UK.
Yeah, that was true. But originally, when Sanity was broken up, apparently Triple H, that was like his. I think it might be something along the lines of they told Triple H like, "Yeah, we'll use him properly," and they just didn't.
Yeah, of course not.
So it's like, dude, going from NXT into good Lord, going from NXT to going into WWE, that is where dreams go to get watered down.
Look at fucking Finn Balor, my birthday twin. I fucking love Finn.
Oh, he's unbelievable. Dude, he is pound for pound the best wrestler in the world, I feel. And except for maybe Cesaro. Like Cesaro, what Cesaro can do in the ropes, Oh, by the way, actually, we mentioned Eddie Guerrero. Dude, Brody Lee broke my heart.
Brody Lee broke my heart too. We were on air, bro, when I got the news that he passed.
That's horrible. That killed me because
we actually did an episode on him. You should go in the archives and check it out.
Okay, I will. Like, dude, I've loved that dude since way before he should.
Yeah.
I remember watching him and Cesaro battle it out in that famous steel cage
in NXT.
I don't think it was. I think it was Ring of Honor when they had that one. In NXT though, there's a dude Brody Lee.
They had a three best out of three falls match, not a match series. I mean, sort of similar to like what Cesaro and Sheamus had.
No, Sami Zayn as well, dude. That's the one I think of with Cesaro. Cesaro and Sami Zayn. That one, I remember a story about how good that match was. Do you remember the match where Sami Zayn slipped, but Cesaro still held him the entire time, and then just from literally like this, just held him, and then threw him into the air and managed to hit that European uppercut.
That European is dangerous.
So I forget who the wrestler was, but he was backstage just talking with Paul Heyman, and they were looking back and forth just to each other and looking at the screen, and then. When that part happened, Paul Heyman did this apparently. He was looking at the TV screen at the time, watching it, and then that part started happening, and he just did this. And he just sat up and watched the rest of that match without saying a word. And he apparently after he was like, that was amazing.
Because it was. The only thing that I think would be able to top that is a fatal 5-way dream match in NXT, which would be Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano,
Finn Balor,
Adam Cole, and Karrion
Kross. Or maybe I don't know, man. I thought Keith Lee all of a sudden when he started, dude. Him and Dijakovic.
He's main roster now, though. Yeah, him and Dijakovic had great chemistry together.
They always had great chemistry.
Yeah, always.
Their matches when Keith Lee was trying to make a name for himself. Those matches he had with Dijakovic very early on in his career put him on the map. Both of them. But those matches they put on.
Then they made him slap dick, and now he's shit.
Well, the only two people something's happening though. Like he's been off screen. They're like, I swear, they're like repackaging him because Vince does see big numbers. Vince sees big numbers with Keith Lee, but apparently the thing is that
Keith Lee has some underlying health conditions right now.
That and also he might have some because adjusting from NXT to WWE is serious. It's a serious transition when you think about it. Like AEW doesn't really have a development area like the WWE does. As much.
They kind of do the Nightmare Factory, but we can't watch it.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, I was like, they might. I'm not 100%, but because I'm getting more into AEW lately because
I've been watching it since day one.
I watched the first few pay-per-views. I watched when Brody Lee won the TNT Championship. That one was awesome because I was hoping he would. But
keep your eyes on MJF and Jungle Boy Jack Perry.
Oh, I know. MJF is a tough to get to level of heel these days, but I've heard he's phenomenal.
Bar none, he's probably the best heel in the game today.
And I mean, is there anything Jericho can't do?
There's nothing Jericho can't do.
That man,
he is the GOAT.
That man is one of the most talented people I've ever seen. Not wrestler or anything, just people. How much he does. He impresses me like Mick Foley does. Mick Foley, all he's done, all he's put his body through, his head through, the chair shot. He writes like a Shakespearean author. Like, he's an amazing writer.
Him and Kane are very intellectual.
Oh, Kane's brilliant. That dude is, well, I mean, you don't become a politician, like, but, oh, man, once you like...
no, you can't say that. Look at George Bush.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. But the thing with Kane, though, was, like, did you see when Taker told him that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, man.
Dude,
great chemistry on and off screen, the both of them.
Oh, yeah, but, like, Kane was, like, choking up and stuff. I'm like, oh, the big puppy dog. Like, the guy's sweetheart.
Yeah, but honestly, you want The Undertaker to tell you. You know what I mean? Especially because his career was built around the charisma you two had. And the only two people...
And that was the first person he ever did that with. Taker's never done that for anybody.
The only two people with charisma better that I can think of right now are me and you, man.
Duh.
Me and you.
Duh.
I got it.
Bruh. Oh, it's coming out. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Get the L'Oreal.
We got to have you on the break room with us.
The break room?
Yeah, I have two podcasts. We kind of bug out a little more on the break room, have a couple drinks, either talk about a singular topic or we have guests over to show their talents. But
sounds fun.
I had a great time tonight.
Dude, I had a fun time. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the link to my calendar on the break room. You tell me when you're ready, and we'll have you pick the topic. We'll just bug out with you.
You got it, brother. Sounds good. Now I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much for blessing us tonight.
Hey, my pleasure, man. Thank you for having me on.
Junkers, be nice. Go to Nick's website. Look at all his stuff and encourage him to start a TikTok. All those voices that you just seen tonight, you can see on TikTok, Instagram, or anywhere else if we just bug him about it. This man could blow up from those voices.
Well, thank you, man. That means a lot.
Hey, it's respect where respect is due. We got to give you your flowers while you're still here.
There's also, you notice on there, I also do educational pages on top of it. So those videos on there are videos I take it, but others are just pictures of different animals, and those animals I just give quick fun facts about just so people can learn more about these other animals people might not know much about.
See, so definitely go to his Instagram, press that follow button so you can get all the updates and all those good juicy facts on these nice animal pictures he has there. And this is not going to be the last time you see Nick on the show if I can have anything to do with it. But Nick, we got a request from Sunshine. She's a normal viewer. She wants you to say goodbye in one of the voices for us.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. We'll just throw in a few. Okay. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. And you also enjoyed all the different voices I was able to throw out there. But good night, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.
Good night, you bastards!
Welcome to Talking Junk.
I'm your host,